Now, on the path to perfecting the Greek god of the mind or the Roman warriors of consciousness, to get that perfect symmetry, it's important that you acquire and recognize the distinction between flat insight and deep insights. So flat insights are ideas and knowledge. And see, ideas are still forms. Okay, they're thought forms. And deep insights are formless. They are what traditionally referred to as wisdom. And deep insights are sort of a direct way of knowing, an experiential way of knowing with a capital K. And flat insights are sort of referred knowing, such as concepts and stuff that I read in books, or just ideas you come up with, like, oh, I have an idea for a prank video. I have an idea for how to fill in the equations or solve the equations for a theoretical physics problem. Those are all flat insights. The broad analogy that I can give you to better understand the difference between flat and deep insight is the difference between going to a restaurant and just reading the menu, looking at the pictures of the food and the description of the food, versus actually ordering the food and eating it and feeling fulfilled. So if you only have flat insights, you're not going to be fulfilled. And the difference is kind of like the difference between looking at anatomy charts or a workout program, but not actually working out or growing the muscles. Now, the flat insights come from the thinking or the rational mind. So the way to arrive at flat insights is just to think about a problem, or to look for answers in the linguistic realm or the conceptual realm or the realm of ideas. It's the desire to know that drives the accumulation of flat insights. And conversely, deep insights come from letting go. It comes from beyond the mind, and you sort of receive them from the source. And the only way to receive deep insights is to sort of let go of the desire to know and to quiet the rational or the thinking mind through meditation, yoga, various breathing techniques, and maybe psychedelics if it's done right. And one can suspect that the reason why deep insights aren't even mentioned in curriculums at school. You go through grade 1 to 12 and nobody's ever teach you how to do self-inquiry. Nobody's ever teach you how to meditate correctly. Nobody's ever teach you how to do breathing techniques in yoga. One can suspect the reason why that is the same reason why psychedelics are illegal in all modern societies. Because in a way, true wisdom is antithesis to the functioning of the capitalist society. Donald Trump is the total antithesis of wisdom. And the reason why our society elected Donald Trump is because our society thrives on ego, thrives on the opposite of what you would realize from those wisdoms, those deep insights. And the people in power, people up there who controls the capitalist regime and the government that are associated with it, they don't want people to recognize deep insights. See, but most scientists and artists and philosophers only have flat insights. That's why they're so miserable. So many artists and writers and intellectuals and philosophers, they come up with genius ideas. They write the most groundbreaking symphonies and works of literature, but they're still miserable as fuck because their minds are still hungry. Deep insights are so hard to articulate. You can't even articulate it, and they're not cool, they're not flashy, you can't win awards with them. See, you can have an IQ of 210 Nobel Prizes and 20 PhDs and still have little or no wisdom. And that is what I call the discontent of the Western mind. And of course, you can sort of articulate the deep insights after they trickle down to your thinking or irrational brain and then sort of write it down or articulate it and tell the next person, oh, I recognize that, you know, you're not the body and you're not the mind, and that everything's connected. And it sounds so like cheesy and sounds so woo-woo, spiritual woo-woo. That's because the moment you try to articulate those deep insights, they become flat insights. And the only way other people will get it is they have the experience or acquire those deep insights directly themselves. Unless they're also on the path, or else they'll never get what you're saying. They'll never make a difference in their lives, and they'll think you're being blasphemous. They'll think you're insane. Osho said that, you know, Osho's a troll, so you always have to take what he says with a grain of sand. Not a grain of salt, a grain of sand. He said that if people like Wittgenstein, Sartre, Beethoven, Einstein, Schopenhauer, all those great thinkers in the West, if they were brought up in the East, they will all be sages, they will all be enlightened beings. I love science, but science is good at describing phenomena that are within the illusion. They're good at describing the illusion, but they're good at creating gadgets within the illusion, but most of them would never recognize that their discoveries, their inventions are stuff of the matrix, let alone just leave it completely, get out of the matrix. And you can see from the writings of Nietzsche, Virginia Woolf, or William James, or James Joyce. Anybody who's smart enough to be thinking about these ideas that are so like at the edge of the mind, but they didn't go over the mind and be embedded into the space that's around the mind. You can tell that they have glimpses. They have glimpses of the absolute. They have glimpses of truth with a capital T, not the little truths. But they never went all the way. So that's why a lot of their writings, through their writings, they all dealt with the dissociations of the self. They ask what the self is over and over again. A lot of them kill themselves. And if you look up sort of like their, if you want to put their mental state into a category, you could say that they all depersonalize. Now, people ask me what depersonalization is, because I guess I mentioned it in some of my videos or my posts on Instagram, but depersonalization, see, it's interesting. In the West, it's a disorder. It's a clinical psychological disorder. But in the East, you get depersonalized when you had a quote-unquote awakening experience. So what depersonalization means, you forget the sense of self. You forget who you are or what you are. You sort of live in day-to-day basis, moment-to-moment basis, without the underlying deep structure of the self. And in a sense, when you become depersonalized, you are actually moving closer to the truth. When I was feeling depersonalized, actually I was kind of, in a sense, happy, because I was like, yay, depersonalization, another mental disorder that I can sort of put a check next to, like a bucket list. You know, like 5 or 6 years ago, my goal was just to become schizophrenic. I just wanted to be a schizophrenic because I was so fascinated by how their mind works. Like the mind becomes so real that it becomes reality, and that nothing could be like more interesting to me than that. Just like seeing like stuff that's not there, like hallucinations, and really makes you question what is the line or the distinction between like the real and the imaginary. You know, like I wanted to erase that distinction, and what better ways to erase that distinction than to start hallucinating objects that quote unquote aren't there in the real world. But I sort of got over that phase. You know, I was clinically diagnosed as being bipolar, and I was taking medication for a while. But then when I had the idea, when I was looking into like mental illness, it's just being like an alternate state of consciousness, and I stopped taking the medication, and I started to go really deep with my bipolar disorder. It's almost like another identity I was attached to, another role that I was playing. I was like, I want to be this insane bipolar guy, right? And because like bipolar and schizophrenia are sort of cousins. You know, you get bipolar disorder, you get manic or whatever to the maximum effort degree, you sort of you can tip over to become schizophrenic. So I stopped taking medication because I want to max out my bipolar capacity.